My wife said you're a failure. I agreed, filed divorce, worked 18 hours daily, built a 50 Indian rupees crore company. She applied for a job there. I interviewed her myself, then politely declined. Hey Reddit, you're a failure. A complete and utter failure. Those words came from my wife's mouth during what I thought was going to be a normal Tuesday dinner. Her wine glass sat half empty beside her plate. Her eyes held something I'd never seen before, genuine contempt. I know, I said quietly. The confusion that flickered across her face would have been funny in any other context. She'd clearly expected a fight, an argument, maybe tears or pleading. Instead, I just agreed with her. I'm 46, been married for 14 years. Sitting in our modest 2-bedroom apartment in Manchester, I realized my marriage had been dead for months. I just hadn't admitted it to myself yet. What do you mean, you know? Victoria asked, setting down her fork with a sharp clink. I mean, you're right. By your standards, I am a failure. I accepted a salary cut to work on something meaningful. I've been coming home exhausted every night. Our savings are getting smaller. I get it. She leaned back, studying me like I was a stranger. So what are you going to do about it? I'm going to fix it, I said. But not the way you think. The next morning, I called a divorce attorney. Let me back up slightly. 6 months before that dinner, I'd made what Victoria considered the worst decision of our marriage. I'd left my comfortable job as a senior product manager at a decent tech firm to join a startup. The pay was roughly 40% less, but the equity stake was substantial, and I genuinely believed in what we were building, an AI-driven supply chain optimization platform. Victoria had been furious. She worked in marketing for a luxury goods company, made good money, but somehow it was never enough. We didn't have kids, no major debts beyond the car loan, but she'd grown accustomed to a certain lifestyle, and my decision threatened that. This is so typical of you, she'd said when I told her about the job change. Always chasing some fantasy instead of being practical. We had plans. We were supposed to buy a house next year. We still can, I'd assured her. This could be huge, Vic, really huge. Could be. Might be. Possibly. I'm so tired of your maybes. Over the following months, I threw myself into the work. My co-founder, an absolute genius named Alex, and I were building something special. We had 3 other people on the team, all brilliant, all underpaid, all believers. We worked out of a cramped office space that smelled perpetually of coffee and determination. Meanwhile, my marriage deteriorated like wet paper. Victoria stopped asking about my day, stopped pretending to care. She'd go out with her friends multiple times a week, coming home late, smelling of expensive cocktails and other people's cigarettes. When I tried to talk to her, I got one-word answers. When I tried to touch her, she flinched away. The failure comment wasn't even the worst thing she'd said. That came 2 weeks before the dinner. We were lying in bed, backs to each other, when she spoke into the darkness. I should have married someone with ambition. Someone who actually wanted to be successful. I didn't respond. What could I say? In her eyes, ambition meant climbing the corporate ladder, getting bonuses, impressing her friends with our car and our vacations. My kind of ambition, building something from nothing, solving real problems, creating value, that was just daydreaming to her. The divorce papers arrived at our apartment on a Thursday. I'd moved out 3 days after that Tuesday dinner, crashing with Alex temporarily. Victoria called me, and for the first time in months, there was emotion in her voice. Are you serious right now? You're actually divorcing me? Yes. Because I called you a failure? Jesus Christ, how fragile is your ego? It's not about my ego, I said calmly. It's about respecting myself enough to leave a relationship where I'm not valued. You've made your feelings clear. I'm just acting on them. This is insane. You can't just. We've been together for 14 years. 14 years where you've been happy about 6 of them. We both know this hasn't been working. There was a long pause. Then her voice changed, became calculating. You realize you'll owe me in the settlement, right? The apartment, the savings, everything we've built together. Take it, I said. All of it. I don't care. What? I mean it. Keep everything. I'll sign whatever makes this quick and simple. I just want out. Another pause. Are you having a breakdown? No, I said. I'm having a breakthrough. I moved into a studio apartment in a less trendy part of the city. It was small, poorly insulated, and the neighbors were loud. It was perfect. No memories. No reminders. Just space to focus. The startup was at a critical juncture. We developed a minimum viable product and had interest from several mid-sized manufacturing companies. But we needed to close deals, prove the concept, and secure series of funding. It required everything I had, and then some. I started working 18-hour days. Not because I was running from the divorce, though that didn't hurt, but because I finally had nothing holding me back. No one waiting at home, resenting every minute I spent at the office. No guilty conscience about missed dinners or weekend work sessions. Alex noticed immediately. "You're like a machine lately. It's actually kind of scary." "I'm focused," I said, reviewing our latest pitch deck at 11 p.m. on a Saturday. "You're going to burn out." "Maybe, but not before we make this work." The divorce finalized in 3 months. True to my word, I let Victoria have everything. The apartment, the furniture, the savings account, even the car we'd bought together. My lawyer thought I was insane. "You're entitled to at least half of the marital assets," she said. "You're just giving up?" "I'm not giving up," I told her. "I'm buying my freedom. What she's taking is worth less than my peace of mind." Victoria's lawyer was clearly confused, but not complaining. They wrapped it up quickly. I signed the papers in a coffee shop, and that was it. 14 years, done. 7 months after the divorce, we closed our first major deal. A manufacturing company with operations across Europe signed a 3-year contract worth £2.3 million. Alex and I celebrated with cheap champagne in our office while our small team cheered. "This is it," Alex said, eyes shining. "This is proof of concept. We can go to investors now with real numbers." He was right. Within weeks, we had meetings scheduled with 3 VC firms. I prepared for those presentations like they were Olympic trials. Every number memorized. Every objection anticipated. Every slide perfect. The first 2 firms passed. "Too early stage," they said. "Too niche." The third firm, a boutique investment group that specialized in B2B tech, got it immediately. "This is elegant," the lead partner said, a sharp woman named Catherine. "You're solving a real problem with measurable ROI. How much are you raising?" "For £1 million for Series A," Alex said. "We'll give you 6, Catherine replied. "But we want 15% equity and a board seat." I looked at Alex. Alex looked at me. We'd discussed our bottom line extensively. This was better than our best-case scenario. "Deal," we said simultaneously. The next 2 years were a blur. With proper funding, we hired aggressively. Smart people who understood the vision. We refined the product based on user feedback. We expanded into new markets. The 18-hour days didn't stop. If anything, they intensified. But now I had a team sharing the load. I lived like a monk. My studio apartment remained sparsely furnished. I ate mostly meal prep and takeaway. I had no social life to speak of. Dating? Non-existent. Every ounce of energy went into the company. People asked if I was okay. "You seem obsessed," Alex said more than once. "I am obsessed," I'd reply. "What's wrong with that?" The truth was more complicated. Yes, I was driven by the work itself. But I was also driven by something darker, something I wasn't entirely proud of. Every milestone we hit, every deal we closed, every investor who praised our vision, it felt like proof. Proof that I wasn't the failure Victoria had called me. I never tried to contact her. Never checked her social media. Moved on completely, or so I told myself. Then one morning, our head of HR, a wonderfully efficient woman named Patricia, knocked on my office door. "We've had an interesting application," she said, setting a folder on my desk. "For the senior marketing manager position." I was only half listening, focused on an email from a potential client. "Great. Schedule them for." "You should look at the name first," Patricia interrupted gently. I glanced down at the CV, Victoria Chun, marketing director at luxury goods company. 14 years of experience. Looking for new opportunities. My ex-wife had applied to work at my company. I read through her application slowly. It was good, objectively speaking. She had solid credentials, relevant experience, and her cover letter was well written. She'd clearly researched the company. There were specific references to our recent expansion, our company culture, our values. What she apparently hadn't researched was who owned the company. "Did you respond yet?" I asked Patricia. "No. I wanted to check with you first." I sat back in my chair, thinking. The petty part of me wanted to reject her application immediately. But that wasn't who I wanted to be. Besides, there was something almost poetic about the situation. "Schedule her for an interview," I said. "Standard process. First round with you, then with the marketing team if she passes, then final interview with me." Patricia raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure that's wise?" "Probably not," I admitted. "But do it anyway." 2 weeks later, Victoria sat in our modern conference room, waiting for her first round interview. I watched from my office through the glass walls, one of the design choices I'd insisted on. Transparency in all things. She looked different. Thinner, maybe. More polished. Her hair was shorter, styled expensively. She wore a sharp navy suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent used to. She was nervous, though she was trying to hide it. I could tell from the way she kept smoothing her skirt, a tell I remembered from years ago. Patricia conducted the interview professionally. I couldn't hear them, but I could see Victoria's body language shift from nervous to confident. She was good at interviews, always had been. The marketing team interview came next, 2 days later. I sat in on that one, in the back of the room, introduced as the founder without a name. Victoria was 15 minutes into discussing her experience with luxury brand positioning when she glanced my way and did a double take. Her face went white, then red. She stumbled over her next words, recovered, but the damage was done. The smoothness was gone. For the rest of the interview, she kept stealing glances at me, clearly rattled. Our marketing director, a sharp guy named Thomas, noticed. After Victoria left, he turned to me. "Did you two know each other before?" "We were married," I said simply. The room went quiet. Thomas said. "Should we not consider her application?" "Consider it fairly," I replied, "based purely on merit. If she's the best candidate, I won't stand in the way. If she's not, we'll go with someone else." Thomas nodded slowly. "For what it's worth, she's good, experienced, knows her stuff. But she seemed thrown off today." "Yes," I agreed. "She did." The team deliberated. Victoria had done well despite her obvious discomfort. She was qualified, no question. But there was another candidate, a younger woman named Sophie, less experienced but creative, hungry, and already familiar with B2B tech marketing. Thomas came to my office with his recommendation. "It's close. Victoria has the experience edge. Sophie has the innovation edge and better cultural fit. Honestly, I'd be happy with either." "What's your gut say?" I asked. "Sophie, but I'm aware my judgment might be clouded by the awkwardness with Victoria." I nodded. "Schedule final interviews with both. I'll make the decision after." Sophie's interview was first. She was impressive, brought ideas, asked intelligent questions, seemed genuinely excited about our mission. We talked for an hour. At the end, I knew she'd be excellent for the role. Then came Victoria. She arrived 10 minutes early. I kept her waiting 5 minutes past the scheduled time, not out of pettiness, but because I was genuinely finishing something. When Patricia showed her in, Victoria looked like she was walking to an execution. "Please sit," I said, gesturing to the chair across from my desk. She sat stiffly, hands clasped in her lap. "I didn't know. When I applied, I didn't know this was your company." "I figured," I said calmly. "The company's registered under our legal name, not my personal name. Easy to miss. I would never have. I mean, if I'd known." "It's fine, Victoria. You applied for a job. There's nothing wrong with that." She studied my face, looking for anger, mockery, something. I kept my expression neutral. "The team says you interviewed well," I continued. "Your credentials are solid. You have relevant experience." "But," she said quietly, "but I'm going to go with our other candidate." Victoria nodded, unsurprised. "Because I'm your ex-wife." "No," I said. "Because Sophie is a better fit for what we need right now. She has fresher ideas, better energy, and frankly, no complicated history that would make every day awkward." "That's fair," Victoria said. She stood to leave, then hesitated. "Can I ask you something? When did this happen? When did you build all this?" "After the divorce," I said. "We were already building when we were married, but the real growth came after." She looked around my office, the minimalist design, the awards on the shelf, the photo of our team at last year's industry conference. "You said you agreed with me. When I called you a failure, you said I was right." "I did," I confirmed. "But you weren't. You were never a failure." I leaned back in my chair. "By your metrics at the time, I was. I'd taken a pay cut. Our savings were shrinking. I wasn't providing the lifestyle you wanted. In that context, yeah, I was failing." "That's not what I meant," she said, but her voice was weak. "Wasn't it?" I asked gently, not unkindly. "Victoria, you wanted a husband with a certain kind of success. Corporate ladder, steady promotions, predictable income. I wanted to build something meaningful. Those aren't compatible visions." She was quiet for a long moment. "I heard you gave me everything in the divorce. The apartment, the money, all of it." "I did. Why?" "Because none of it mattered to me," I said simply. "I needed a clean break, and material things were a small price to pay for that. Best decision I ever made." Victoria's eyes got glassy, but she didn't cry. "I was wrong about you. You were wrong about what I was capable of," I corrected. "But you weren't entirely wrong about us. We weren't right for each other. We wanted different things. The divorce was good for both of us." "Was it?" she asked. "I'm not sure it was good for me." I didn't respond to that. It wasn't my place anymore. She straightened her shoulders, recovering some composure. Well, thank you for considering my application and for conducting this interview professionally. You didn't have to do that. I know, I said, but I wanted to. She turned to leave, then looked back one more time. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. For what I said. For how things ended. I appreciate that, I said. I genuinely hope you find what you're looking for. She nodded and left. I sat in my office for a while after she'd gone, feeling oddly hollow. I'd imagined this moment countless times, running into Victoria again, her seeing my success, some kind of vindication or closure. But now that it had happened, it felt empty. Alex came in an hour later. Patricia told me about the interview. You okay? Yeah, I said. I'm fine. You hired Sophie, right? I did. Good choice. Alex sat down across from me. Can I say something? Always. This company, everything we've built, it's incredible. But you know it's not actually about proving anything to your ex-wife, right? I smiled slightly. I know. Do you though? Because you've been running like someone's chasing you for 2 years straight. And I get it, divorce sucks. But at some point, you're allowed to just enjoy what we've created. He wasn't wrong. I'd been so focused on building, achieving, succeeding, that I'd forgotten to actually appreciate any of it. You're right, I admitted. I've been trying to prove something. And did you? When she sat in that chair, looking at what you've built, did it feel like you thought it would? No, I said honestly. It just felt sad. Alex nodded. That's growth, man. That's you realizing that revenge, even the professional, successful kind, doesn't actually heal anything. Sophie started the following month. She was fantastic, brought energy and innovation to our marketing strategy. Within weeks, she'd revamped our entire approach to client acquisition. Within months, we'd signed deals worth 50 Indian rupees crores, roughly £5 million, making it our best quarter ever. The company kept growing. We expanded to offices in 3 countries. Our team grew to over 100 people. Catherine, our initial investor, called us one of her best bets. Industry publications wrote articles about our disruptive approach and innovative leadership. I finally moved out of my studio apartment into a decent flat. Nothing extravagant. I'd learned that material things weren't what made me happy, but comfortable. I started taking Sundays off. Picked up running again, something I'd loved in my 20s but abandoned. Even went on a few dates, though nothing serious. One evening, about 6 months after the interview, Patricia forwarded me an email. Victoria had reached out, not to her former application, but directly to Patricia's work address. The message was simple. I wanted to let you know I've accepted a position at another company. Thank you again for considering me. I also wanted to apologize properly for how things ended with your CEO. He deserves all the success he's achieved. I hope the company continues to thrive. I replied, briefly, congratulations on the new position. I wish you all the best. That was the last contact we ever had. 2 years after that interview, we were acquired by a major tech conglomerate for an amount that would have seemed impossible during those 18-hour days in our cramped first office. I won't share the exact figure, but I will say this. My share was enough that I could retire comfortably if I wanted to. I didn't want to. Instead, I stayed on to lead the division, hired more brilliant people, kept building. But I also started living. Traveled to places I'd always wanted to see. Invested in other startups. Mentored young founders who reminded me of myself at 35, broke and ambitious and terrified. I never remarried. Came close once with a woman I met at an industry conference. Another founder. Actually, someone who understood the obsession and drive. But ultimately, we wanted different things. It ended amicably. Sometimes, late at night in my office, I think about that Tuesday dinner. About Victoria's face when she called me a failure. About my unexpected agreement. About the chain of events that followed. I don't regret any of it. People ask if I'm bitter about those 14 years with Victoria. I'm not. We weren't right for each other, but that doesn't mean it was wasted time. I learned what I didn't want. I learned what I was capable of when I stopped apologizing for my ambitions. And I learned that success, real success, isn't about proving someone wrong. It's about proving yourself right. About betting on your vision and working until it becomes reality. The interview with Victoria was a strange kind of closure. She saw what I'd built, and maybe she regretted her words. Maybe she didn't. Either way, it didn't matter as much as I'd thought it would. What mattered was that I'd kept going. That I'd taken the pain of being called a failure and used it as fuel, not for revenge, but for transformation. Last month, I gave a talk at a startup conference. A young founder approached me afterward, clearly nervous. I'm going through a divorce, he said. My wife says I'm wasting my time with my company, that I should get a real job. And honestly, some days I think she's right. I looked at him, 20-something, exhausted, desperate for validation. I recognized myself in him immediately. Is your company solving a real problem? I asked. Yes. Do you believe in it? More than anything. Then she's not right, I said firmly. She's just not the right partner for this journey. And that's okay. Better to figure that out now than 10 years from now. His eyes got watery. I just don't want to fail. Failure isn't about other people's opinions, I told him. It's about giving up on something you believe in because it's hard. Everything else is just noise. He thanked me, and I watched him walk away, shoulders a little straighter. That's when I knew I'd actually moved on. Not when Victoria sat in my office, not when the acquisition went through, but when I could take my pain and use it to help someone else avoid the same pitfalls. Success isn't about the money or the company or proving anyone wrong. It's about becoming the person you were meant to be, without apology or compromise. Victoria called me a failure, and I agreed. Because by her standards, I was. But by my standards, the ones that actually mattered, I was exactly where I needed to be. The company is worth 10 times what it was when she applied. We employ over 300 people now. We've helped hundreds of manufacturers optimize their operations, saving them millions and reducing waste significantly. But more importantly, I'm happy. Genuinely, sustainably happy. I have work I love, people I respect, and the freedom to live life on my own terms. And that, I've learned, is the only success that matters. Sometimes I wonder what Victoria is doing now. If she's happy, if she found what she was looking for. I hope she did. Not because I'm particularly charitable, but because her happiness or unhappiness has nothing to do with me anymore. That Tuesday dinner broke my marriage, but it made my life. And I'd make the same choice every single time.